currently showing national pride, perhaps because it was a nation without a state for a long time. But beneath the surface of amicable dialogue, there is always a struggle for control of crucial economic and political interests. And that is what an empire is all about. Now, what did the European Empire bring? Try it again. It's not working. Now, what did the European Empire bring? It realized quite many things which we regard as an achievement today. For business, there is a single market, a space to buy and sell products and services. Today's dimension of trade is European, if not global. Workers and self-employed professionals have a broad range of opportunities to work in other countries. Students easily obtain scholarships to go abroad and study at very reputable universities all over Europe. Citizens are allowed to travel across the continent without restrictions, and they book flights at affordable prices. Most of Europe lives in affluence, which it would not have attained without the European dimension Mr. Barroso invoked. So if one assesses the achievements of the European Empire over 50 years, I gladly conclude that the balance is positive. In today's world, a Europe without a European Union would be negligible, provincial, and marginal. But if you ask me if I'm happy with the European Union as it is now, I would frankly say no. We have been living off capital for too long. Europe needs leadership, accountability, and political legitimacy among its citizens. There are simply too many chiefs and too few Indians in Brussels, and the decision-making process is a labyrinth in which even Mandarins lose their way. But most importantly, the European Empire still has one of the features which ultimately struck down most empires. It is disconnected from the people. Like submerged empires centuries ago, the European Union is a world of political elites. European leaders happily appoint each other. It is for the sake of the people, but it is without the people. An empire may do well for some time, but elitist rule is not sustainable in the long run. So let me give you an idea of the chemistry inside of the political circles of this European Empire not so far away from here, in Brussels. Albert Einstein once said that vision without implementation is hallucination. So perhaps I may repeat this. Vision without implementation is hallucination. And he was right. Sheer vision fills an empty field with words, but nothing else. It ends in rhetoric without substance, delusion and deceit. Often I hear people say, oh, that politician is so visionary. But most visionaries in this world became masters of disasters because they could not realize what they promised, and they were messy and sloppy in implementation. But conversely, implementation without vision is unfocused, elusive, and destructive. People act because they want to do something, but they do not know what they are doing. In the European Empire, so in Brussels, in the European Commission, there is a permanent tension between vision and implementation. In Brussels, it is reflected in the relationship between the political and the administrative level, for example, between the Commissioner and the Mandarins. I worked for 5 years for the Dutch Commissioner, Mr. Bolkestein, and 2.5 years for the Estonian Vice President of the Commission, Mr. Kallas. So what did I see there in the relationship between the Commissioner and the Mandarins? I saw that Mandarins are very powerful. Last year, the Vice President of the European Commission Mr. Verheugen, a German commissioner of the SPD, he confessed in a newspaper interview that he felt like a temporary inhabitant in the Commission headquarters because Mandarins were calling the shots. They had, according to him, the real power. Now, by nature, a European Mandarin, like any Mandarin, wants to create order in a chaotic world. He wants to achieve stability, overview, management. Everything has to be under control, and experiments are highly suspect actions of good intentions which tend to end in failure. So for the sake of stability, they are to be smothered at the infant stage. The opponent of the Mandarin is the politician, whatever important post he may hold. The politician departs from vision, if not fairy tales. He wants exchange, publicity and votes. He tends to promise beyond expediency. He will conjure upon appealing horizons, and he will knowingly ignore detail. Most political careers are self-inflating on the public stage, on which the emergency exit is closely located to the hall of fame. So politicians seek the front line, whereas the Mandarin feels safe on the backstage. The politician tends to be loud, while the Mandarin operates in silence. The politician looks for publicity, but the Mandarin appears in the media only twice, in the birth announcement and in the obituary. The politician likes to meet masses, while the Mandarin prefers small committees. The politician tends to say yes, whereas the final reply of the Mandarin is always no. And for a long time, there was a balance of power between the Mandarin and his political master. It turned the European Commission into one of the most effective legislative bodies in the world, governing areas of Europe most people know little about. The European Union's legislative machine is more effective than the United Nations, the WTO or OPEC. Mandarins guarded the collective memory of the institution and kept the visionary politician manageable, or rather restrained. Now the legislative body of the EU consists of 90,000 pages. Politicians came to the Commission and they left after 5 or 10 years. But the Mandarins, they stayed. They became the infantry of European integration and produced results. They limited vision by reining in their political masters, and with what was left, they implemented legislation. So in other words, Mandarins protected politicians against themselves. Now, if you work in the European Commission and you work for a commissioner like Mr. Bolkestein, some of you may know him, you can imagine that a commissioner regularly comes up with a new idea, mostly after holidays when you read a book. This is very dangerous. Now the commissioner is happy and spontaneous. And at the first meeting, cabinet meeting, let's say in the end of August, he will launch a plan. Now the Mandarins of the cabinet will listen. They will say yes, but they think how to smother this. Now what can the Mandarin, the head of cabinet, what can he do? He will present, first of all, practical reasons why the proposal is not possible at this stage. Or secondly, he can say yes and bury the idea in procedures which take so long that his political master will forget about the plan altogether, which is very good. Or thirdly, he can say that the new idea has already been tried and is now subject to an evaluation report and will have to wait for its publication. Then again, it will be shelved somewhere or it will be binned. Another problem is a commissioner